And now we're going to switch gears just a little bit, but really continuing on the theme that we've been hearing about skills and skills-based hiring and the importance of having an expanded number of high-quality educational pathways. It's my pleasure to introduce my friend Byron Auguste. Byron, as you probably know, is the CEO of Opportunity at Work, a great partner to JFF, and he is going to announce a new initiative that they have launched to really help move the needle even further, to move from kind of talk to action around these issues of skills-based hiring. So Byron, please join me.
So the focus of this announcement are STARS. These are 70 million American workers who are skilled through alternative routes. Alternative routes like military experience, training, boot camps, community college, this whole workforce system, and most of all, they're skilled through work experience, mostly in lower wage jobs. Look, I think the two fundamental problems people have, the misconceptions, the myths, are that low wage equals low skill. It does not. There are tens of millions of skilled people working in low wage jobs. And the second is that college is, particularly a four-year bachelor's degree, is sort of the only valid path to a well-paying job, which it's also, or the skills underlying it, and that's just not true. Fundamentally, this is a campaign to change the narrative about STARS. It is a dual audience campaign. It's to give a platform for STARS themselves to tell their stories and to give voice, and for employers to hear it.
With that, we will welcome out the panelists.
Okay, so actually, I'd love to spend a lot of time with introductions, but I think they are in the program, and we don't have much time. So I'm just going to, open it. I'm going to open it straight up. And LaShana, I've known you the longest of anyone here. We met when I was in the White House, and you had just, after 10 years, kind of broken through into the world of tech, and I learned so much from that experience. So in your career, you've seen a lack of skills-based hiring, you've seen the paper ceiling. How is this campaign, what do you think this campaign can actually do?
I think what will happen when people start seeing this campaign is that they will find out that they know more people that are like me within their own lives. I said, last night I was like, from a show of hands, how many people know that one person that knows how to work the cell phone and knows how to do the laptop stuff and all of that in their lives that maybe didn't, traditionally go through school or another mechanism, but they just kind of figured it out. They happen to have a knack for it. And what this will do is kind of uncover that, because I swear every time I get off of a stage, somebody comes to me and they say that, themselves or their nephew or their niece or someone in particular actually, falls within that paradigm, but they never really had a name for it. So this actually names the issue that we're talking about overall and is able to kind of highlight it, just like many of the brands that you've seen at Ad Council and very similar PSAs have done, is that they've given it a name. Yeah. And I think this is what this will actually do.
And LaShana, I've actually noticed, just to follow up on, I've noticed, because we follow each other, on LinkedIn and other social media, I've noticed you've been using the term STARS more to describe yourself. Right. Why? What does it mean for you?
Again, it's that naming, because what it does is it kind of clicks into people and says, this is the name of a person who went through an alternative route to get to something. So that's like the number one main thing, is that I want people to be able to kind of make that tie. So they'll be able to kind of go forward and say, this is, my nephew is a star. My dad was a star. And a lot of times we didn't have names for people like that went through non-traditional routes in order to do something that, some people may have gone and gotten a 4-year degree or gone to a formal trade school for. So it's something where I'm trying to get the message into different people's minds that this is what you associate those type of people with. So.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
And Stacy, you lead talent for a very big employer with like loads of wild variety of skills requirements in different parts of your business. And there's a lot of work on diversity going on. Do you think a unifying strategy, like a campaign, do you think it's important? Or does that, I mean, is that just talk, or does that help you achieve your goals? And, you know, and what could we learn about what Chevron is doing to tackle this, that we could learn about what is the work?
Yeah, so let me comment a little bit, give you some background. Chevron is an energy company. We do have businesses and across different parts of our segments, from upstream, like fuel exploration, we have downstream that have manufacturing jobs, and also our midstream that has all distribution and shipping. So we do have a wide variety of jobs that historically they're very science or engineering or technically oriented. And we have a very established, strong recruiting practices in the past in terms of going out to recruit for talent that has degrees. So whether it's an engineering degree or a science degree, computer science, or a geologist for earth science for a geologist. So that's been our traditional recruiting model. But what we found is that, you know, we have those recruiting models and very strong established practices with universities and with schools to hire students and also talent with those degrees. Many other companies and my peer in the industry also do the same things. So we're all tapping into the same pool of talent, and we're not finding the diversity that we need. So we started looking at what are some of the alternative ways and means in terms of looking into a broader talent pool, and that's where we got introduced to the concept of STARS, Skills Through Alternative Means, and thinking about skill-based hiring as a way of casting the net wide and really helping us to look at an untapped, massive, hidden talent pool that historically we never thought of. And so that was groundbreaking, a little bit opening our eyes in terms of different ways that we can do that. And so there are a few things that we did that we tried to get into this because it feels like a really interesting concept in terms of hiring for stars, but how do we do that? And so the first thing that we did was we're part of, Chevron is part of this organization called American Petroleum Institute, API. We have a group of member companies that are in the industry, and we talked about some of the jobs that we have available that can lend itself to skill-based hiring. So we started with a small coalition, about 5 companies. Now it's grown to 20+ companies who are a part of this initiative, where we start identifying a subset of jobs that really lend itself to skill-based hiring. So we look at our operations and maintenance space, and our operators, and our mechanics, and some of our even technical programming analyst jobs that can potentially look at talent that are stars through those alternative means. And so we kind of start with a small subset of those. The second thing we did was, well, how do we find these talent? And we were very fortunate to be introduced to Opportunity at Work as a way of kind of identifying some of the partnerships, whether it's coding schools or tech schools or community colleges or places where they offer those job readiness programs that will identify those talent or stars that are coming through the pipeline, that we can match those stars to the jobs opportunities that we have identified. And so that creates a perfect match. But the third thing that's more critical for us is we really had to re-examine our own recruiting practices, because we have traditional recruiting practices that are still more lend itself to degree hiring or hiring based on qualifications of degrees. And so one embarrassing story I'll share is that when we first started this concept, we posted a job for a software engineer in the Bay Area through the program with Opportunity at Work to look for stars talent. And we didn't get as many applicants. And we're wondering why. Is it because they're not interested in our industry? Is it because they're not interested in our jobs? And what we end up finding is that the way that we wrote our job descriptions still is focused on some of those degrees and requirements that we put into the way we source for talent. So there's some hidden bias that we already put into our current practices that we need to revisit that. So we end up going back to rewrite all of our job descriptions, look at the qualifications, and really look at some of the equivalencies of skills that we can put into our qualifications instead of the typical degree that we were used to. So that really opened up our aperture in terms of finding more stars that will find itself into our talent pool. And so now we see this as a way of diversifying our talent sources, as well as finding those opportunities to connect with stars to bring them into the job opportunities that we have. So those are the couple of things that we try to do to get more into the practical action planning in terms of how we get into skill-based hiring and really looking at beyond the traditional means and connecting with stars.
Well, Stacy, I really appreciate that because it's so helpful, I think, for people to really see the different pieces it takes, because sometimes people will say, well, oh, the key thing is to change the job description, or the key thing is to work with the community college, or it's like, yeah, these are important things, but if you just do one and you don't do the others, it maybe won't work that well, and then you'll think, oh, that thing I did is wrong, but it's not wrong. It's right, but you just have to keep going. And I think one of the great things about the work we've been doing with you and the energy companies and the Houston launch is people are trying, like you hit a barrier and then you figure it out, and our customer success team, I know, works with you and all of the rest of it. But I think the thing you said that was maybe most profound to me is you're not going to see the people who are turned off by your job descriptions. You may think, oh, we're willing to hire anyone and we're unbiased in our hiring. But if you write your job description in a way that people say, well, that's not me, you're going to miss tons of candidates. And guess what? You're going to miss candidates of color way more. You're going to miss women way more. You're going to miss stars way more. And so it's outside of your range of view. You may not think you're doing anything, but you are, and you're sending a message to the whole system. So it's really great to see the progress you've been making on that. And Shana, I wanted to ask you, because you both, at Sam's Club, I mean, obviously you have a huge operation that has both a lot of frontline jobs and, of course, a lot of, more technical jobs. And you also are on the board of JFF, so you have like an ecosystem view. I mean, how do you connect the dots in this work between, the work that a company needs to do as an employer, but then also just the path to economic opportunity for, your huge workforce in this whole field? And what's the role this whole effort can play?
Yeah, I think the role I get to play is really challenging people. This room is filled with people with passion and energy around creating jobs for the future, but the challenge is we can talk a lot about it, but we've got to take action. So it's not about talking the talk, it's truly about walking the walk. And I see this whole approach as truly about creating equity and an opportunity for us to do something different. We've got to continue to level the playing field so that we create opportunities for this large population that have been shut out of the workforce because of not having a degree. One of the things that I think is unique and special is about Walmart's belief in truly having a place for everyone, that we want to have everyone have their best first job with us. And I think stars are all around us. If you look around the room, I've had a chance to even meet some today. And I'm excited because I get the pleasure of working with stars on a daily basis. As you think about our field-based associate base is largely made up of stars. They come to us in different paths of their careers. They stay with us potentially while they're getting a degree or they're growing their careers. Today, 75% of Walmart and Sam's Club's field-based management actually started as hourly associates. I have the pleasure of being one of them. And it's the opportunities that they provide that allow us to truly reach our full potential. We continue to look at ways in which we can provide that next opportunity and what's the next investment. We believe in growing our talent. And one of the things, one of the thousands of stories that are out there that I'm particularly proud of is of my stepdaughter, Madeline. She came to us while she was in high school and said that college wouldn't be for her. She didn't enjoy going to high school. It was definitely not the place that she loved. And she was really turned off by formalized education. And we started her at Walmart. She started going in and we said, okay, what's your career gonna be? And she said, I wanna be a pharmacy tech. And that was fantastic. When a job became available, she applied, she interviewed, and she had the chance to go in. On the job, she learned the skills and the confidence, quite honestly, to pass her certification. So to become a licensed pharmacy tech, and then she came to us and said, I want to grow my career again. I want to lead a team. And an opportunity came available, and now she's leading a team in curbside, and I'm extremely proud of her. Not only is she doing that in the day-to-day, she's taken advantage of our Live Better You program that's allowing her to start building confidence and getting a degree, all because of what she learned on the job.
I actually think it's a great example, and I couldn't underscore more too this dichotomy between is it college or is it work and skills based. I mean, to me that's really ridiculous. I mean, I think almost 40% of stars, certainly more than a third, have some college credits. Some of them would love to complete colleges, others don't want to, but none of them should have to complete college before they have an opportunity to translate what they can do into higher earnings. And if they can, they might get in a company that supports their higher education aspirations if they have them. This works better together. So I'm just going to do a lightning round, and I might even join in myself to close it with just the question. I mean, we have to work together. There's many, many things, but I'm going to unfairly ask everyone, what's one thing that you would want this audience to go do? Not do, to actually do when they leave here. LaShana, do you want to start, and we'll go?
Yeah, as you know, I'm a little bit of a rule breaker, so I'm going to give you two. The first thing is find 5 jobs that you have right now that are open, and find a way to rework it where having a degree is optional. For those of you that don't have 5, find 1. But that is my challenge for you. 2, I want everyone to look at their mentorship programs. I was actually talking to someone last night, and they asked me what was one of the #1 things that helped me once I did become employed at MasterCard through an apprenticeship program sponsored through Launch Code. And I said it was that someone decided to mentor me. And that is the #1 thing that I see that doesn't happen enough at companies. So,
thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Stacy?
I'm going to follow LaShana's lead, so I have 2 as well.
Wow, look at
so
this.
very similar to your first one is start small, then scale over time. I think that's one thing we learned, that have great aspiration that we want to do this, but you don't want to boil the ocean in your first year. So identify those 5, 10 jobs that you can actually lend itself to skill-based hiring, and look at those jobs and then starting to post that so that you can create some success stories of bringing stars into your organization and integrate them into your system. That creates positive intent and also great influence to other stakeholders and hiring managers and your senior leaders to also sponsor and support this initiative to expand it further. So start small and then scale. And then the second thing I would say is, back to my example, is revisit your job descriptions and go back and see what are you putting in the job description that could potentially be a bias in screening people out, and look for those equivalency skills that you could put into your qualifications, and do a really good job of educating your hiring managers or your recruiters so that they don't have those biases when they're looking at resumes as well. Because that was the other thing we found, is that recruiting managers and our recruiters, they typically look at resumes, and the first thing they look at is what school they went to, the degrees that they got, but they need to now look at maybe adjacency jobs or transferable skills that could potentially add value to the roles that they're hiring for. And so doing that and revisiting your recruiting practices hopefully is something that you can do immediately and very actionable.
And remember, nonprofits and workforce boards are employers too, so this counts for everybody in this room. Yes. Shana?
I would challenge everyone to remember this is a relay race and not an individual marathon. We need each other. We're dependent on each other to get this going. And so go back and challenge the way you think about it. And once you learn stuff because you've taken action, share it. We've got to make sure that we're shamelessly stealing from each other what's working, what's not working. We don't have to relearn this.
Thank you. Well, my one was going to be that I think, but my one was going to be that talk to people who are doing low-wage jobs that you haven't thought about very much. Talk to people who are kind of trying to figure out how to clean like 1,000 hotel rooms in X hours, and ask them about their work. I think you will find that you will learn there is a tremendous amount of skill, of thought, of care, of planning, like many, many skills that employers say they want. And I think it's really helpful to do it because we live in a very divided society where people don't always understand how the work gets done. But when you actually hear, you'll find that it's a tremendous amount of skill. But since nobody here follows my rules, I'm going to have a second thing, which is to say, come September, go figure out before September what your role is in the STARS campaign and be part of it. Thank you very much. And thank you to our families.